and we're here with Paul and Elena to talk about their journey through fostering. Today is an opportunity for us to just share for those who are observing this, to hopefully give insights as to the journey that individuals such as yourselves have taken in fostering and, of course, ultimately adopting, and to give insights as to maybe your why. And beginning with the why, tell us about how this all began in your individual journeys to consider fostering children.
Well, for myself, we started watching a movie about foster children, and at the end of the movie, it said if you wanted to get involved, contact this number and to know more information. And so that was something that I was looking for, like kind of a purpose, something I really wanted to do. And so I got involved in foster. That's how I got involved in foster care. And then the more I learned about it, the more I knew that was the right choice for me.
Do you remember when in that movie or what within that movie triggered something inside you?
I believe, like, to realize how much these kids have been through, they went through, and the trauma they experienced, and the help I could give them to overcome this trauma, or, make them feel like wanted and loved and cared for. So to be involved in that, and, after seeing so many families have so many problems, I wanted to be part of the solution.
Was there any part of your own personal life journey that got you to a point to see inside of the lives of others and to want to be a part of it? Is there something about Elena's journey?
I've always loved children, so
Right.
there's always been something that I've been passionate about. And I remember a story like when I was very young, maybe 8 years old, and there was a neighbor and the parents were fighting, and I saw that there was a little girl, the daughter crying. And so I just went in, the door was open, I took her outside and I hugged her. And then I saw, I mean, we were kind of neighbors, but then I saw this girl last time I went to Italy about 4 years ago. That's where I'm from. And she mentioned that to me
Mm.
so many years later. She's like, do you remember when you took me out and I was so scared? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
Mm.
So definitely, this realizing that affects people like for their lifetime.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Paul, how about you?
As for me, I was going through my normal life, working hard, doing the things I needed to do, but I always felt that I should try to do something for my community, some way of giving back. Children and foster care wasn't something that was on my mind, but after Ellen and I got together and I could see the passion that she had for helping children, I felt that that was a great way for trying to give back to the community. So that was how I got involved.
Mm, very interesting. So, about your personal journey and is there anything that aligns with where you are today and how you were reared or how you grew up?
Not necessarily. I grew up a long ways from here. I grew up in Montana and I grew up with one sister, so it was a small family and my
Mhm.
parents, but we always had extended family around, so there was always a very sense of family. We did all the holidays together and all of that sort of thing that you did, back in those days. And so we always had big Christmases with my
Yeah.
grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and things. And so it wasn't that we were a big family necessarily, but we had a big extended family. So, when Ellen and I got together, we had our kids that she brought to our relationship, kids that I brought to our relationship, but we just wanted to expand that and have that bigger family because we didn't have as much of the extended family as we used to have when we were kids.
Right. And so then your worlds at some point converged.
Mhm.
Yes.
Do you remember some of the early discussions you've had about venturing further into foster care? And was it any different to the kinds of things you reflect on today and talk about?
I mean, definitely it's been a journey, great journey, I have to say. I want to change for the world. This is something I've loved to do, I think, as long as I can. But I believe that it's something that we discussed. And, unlike Paul, I grew up with a lot of siblings. I'm number 8 of 10 kids. So
Oh,
being around children
Yeah,
is something
yeah.
that, it's been my life. And so I didn't think it would be that much difference. So I was very open to foster with the Paul, but of course it's been a little bit different, but great.
Right. And when we met, she had told me that she had been a foster parent in the past, and there was certainly at least one of those kids that she still stayed in touch with a couple of times a year. And so it was nice to see kind of that interaction of how she had helped this child when he was much younger, and now he was into his teens. And so I started to get to know him through that as well. And it was nice to see that she still had that connection with him. And
Yes.
he was a very nice young man, and he was growing up the right way. And, she had a part of that. And so when she said that she wanted to become a foster parent again, um, again, I felt that that was a great way to give back to the community. And, what I had seen from that little boy that she had taken care of, the impact that she had made on that young man, that was a great thing that I wanted to share. So that's how we started.
Oh
Yes.
gosh, you seem emotional about this.
Yes.
I think it's sweet. Your story is beautiful
Thank you.
and inspiring. When you came together and agreed to go on this journey together, did you learn something from her and he with you that maybe gave you an expanded insight about how strong you will be together to parent foster children?
Definitely, you cannot do this by yourself. You need somebody that, I mean, you can do it by yourself, but you need to reach out to your community, like friends and family. They need to support you because it is a beautiful journey, but it can be hard at times. It's not everything so easy, but together with the support, you can overcome a lot of things.
The things that I saw was I just felt that she was a great parent. When I met her and her kids and got to know them, and she had done such a wonderful job raising them. Part of that raising was as a single mom, and so I had seen that great parenting that she had done, and the way she was with my kids when they first started to get involved with us, and she met my boys and she was starting to help raise them as well. I just felt that that was she was very good at it. And so, I was always questioned whether I was a good father or not, but the partnership that I could see between us together doing it, I felt was appropriate, and I thought we could do a great job. So.
Yeah. That's a beautiful statement. And as a father myself, I think that it's very courageous of you and to allow yourself to reflect on, am I being a good enough father? I mean, I think just the people in my life's journey who have actually just reflected and questioned on it was testimony to their why they want to father children. And I've seen you in action, my friend. And you're everything and then some.
Thank you. I appreciate
He's
it.
an
Certainly.
amazing father. Yes.
What's your why? When you think about your why am I doing this even today?
Because I want to make a difference, in this children's life. I want them to experience not just trauma. I want to break the cycle because really mostly the parents of these children, they've been through probably neglect and abuse themselves.
So true.
And so they don't know any better. So I want to break this cycle. I want to try for the children to fulfill the dreams and be kids and don't stay like on that survival mode all the time.
Yeah. You're going to say a lot of things to me that are going to make this like a 5-hour interview, if you will. But do you see indications that your relationship with the children you're caring for and raising is in fact penetrating a cycle that needs to be broken? Do you see behaviors that are changing that you're saying, little Johnny, little Janie was this way, but since being with us, they have transformed and fill in the blank?
Yeah, we have a good story, Paul can tell.
Yeah, the story I would like to tell related to that was that we had a little girl come to us, and she was around 2-ish
Yes.
when she first came to us, and she had been through a lot. She had been through abuse of various kinds, and she actually had been burned in a bath. And so when she first came to us, number one, she was scared of men. And so when she walked into our house with whoever dropped her off. I don't remember if it was an officer or, a department employee. They dropped her off. She wouldn't even look at me, and she went straight for my wife. And every time she would look my direction, she was very tentative, and it took probably a good 2 weeks or so of her living with us before she started to venture towards seeing me as somebody she could trust. And um, I felt that that was a very poignant point in my career as a foster parent, to watch her journey through that situation where she was so scared at first, and then she would start to begin to trust me, because I thought that was a wonderful thing. And it was all on her terms. I would want her to come with me. I would want to help her as much as I could, but I also had to let her come when she was ready. I couldn't just take her to try and do it whatever needed to be done, because that would be more trauma for her. And so I just sat back and let her come to me when she was ready. But then also the whole situation with the bath was very much a transition, because she had been burned in a hot bath. And so even looking at the bath, she was scared to death. She didn't even want to be standing outside the bath near it if there was water in it. She was just so scared of it. And so my wife was very good with it. She started with starting with making sure she would touch the water, and not even starting in the bath. We've got a large sink that we started using to help bathe her in, with just a little tiny bit of water to start, and then a little bit more water, a little bit more water. So each time she would get more and more comfortable with it, and we were able over time to transition her to be able to get in a bath and not be scared of it. And part of that also came from the assistance of, we did decide to take on her sister as well, came to our care, and she was an older sister. And so her sister helped us with that transition as well, by her sister getting in the bath first and showing that it was not hot and things like that. So it was a beautiful journey to go from watching her be so scared to watching her now, come to me and hug me, and, really see me kind of as her father at that point, which was a great thing. I really did enjoy that.
Something. I hear you speaking about your journey and how intuitive you were, and then you joined in support of that intuition about how do you deal with a child of trauma. I spent, 6 years after college, in postgraduate studies and stuff, to learn trauma and its impact on children, and its long-term damage. And you're demonstrating something that we know in recent research, is that we can reverse the impact of trauma. Your story is a perfect example of that. Some kids who don't get a chance to heal, and not even to a point of overcoming what they've experienced, by being in a loving foster home, begins that journey of healing, which, if it happens later in life, and sometimes unfortunately that's when it's addressed, it's late. And it takes a lot of effort to recover, if it does at all. You're practitioners of the healing arts, quite frankly. And I don't even know if you recognize that. You just do it naturally. So when you saw his perseverance and yet patience about, this isn't going to happen overnight. You're not going to flip a switch and this girl's going to say, hey, I trust you, right? What was your instincts, and how are you supporting that?
I thought Paul did great with her, because he did the right thing. He let her be comfortable on her own time. No one pressured her to do anything. And so that was the right thing to do. Also, we've been taking a lot of classes and training on trauma, so we were prepared, and we tried to avoid triggers, like the bathtub and, the running water. And we made it like in a way that she was very comfortable, like he said, start to touch the water a little bit and stuff. And so I think that it was beautiful the way Paul handled that she eventually was comfortable enough to go to him and give him hugs. And I didn't think I would see that in such a short time, really 2 weeks,
Yeah.
And don't give me all the credit, obviously. We did this
We
together.
worked together, yes.
Of course.
She gave me advice. She gave me, thoughts on how to address the little girl, and so I certainly leaned on her
Yeah.
to help me understand the
Yeah.
right way to do
And to add, I was at the school that I used to work at, and the older sister used to go to the same school that I worked at, and the teacher was there, and she said to her, "What would you like to do when you grow up?" And she said, "I want to be like mommy." And so at that point, she only been with us maybe 3, 4 months. I didn't think she was talking about me.
Oh,
And so we asked, "Oh, what does mommy do?" And she say, "You help kids." So she was referring to me and saying, "I want to help kids when I grow up." And so I'm thinking, what an impact. She's so little and she's already,
yeah.
you know,
Wow.
thinking that way. So this is huge.
We
Yeah.
talk often in the child welfare industry about the impact we have on children, but really we have an impact on a generation of children, right? We can
Yes.
perpetuate that. That's actually wonderful. You know, what you just described is what's often discussed in the professional circles as creating a psychologically safe environment.
Yes.
And you guys just do it organically. Is there anything else you do in raising children who have been in the foster care system that reflects the effects of creating a psychologically safe environment? Is there other stories or examples?
I think one of the things that is an example is just that, the children that we've had in our care, we've had quite a few children in our care, but we've ended up adopting a couple of them. And, I see it on our boys that I think we've given them a safe space to dream. That it's not that they're trying to survive and get their next meal and survive whatever situation they're in. We've got a 9-year-old little boy who he's going to be an astronaut when he grows up, and so he's seeing that dream of what can be eventually. And our other little boy, if he's not a singer or dancer when he grows up, he's missing his calling because he's very good at that sort of thing. But they don't necessarily seem to show the trauma on a day-to-day basis. They, I think, see the dreams of what can be happening in their life.
Yes.
When you share what you do, and this is a guy who's been through grad school. I mean, I studied clinical psychology and child development and all that stuff. I don't think any of what I've learned formally is as impactful and as moving as stories such as yours. It's really amazing. And you're doing this for kids, right? But you're doing it for an audience of people who are listening about this too can be an experience they can share. And it doesn't take one to be a rocket scientist to figure it out, you know?
Exactly.
No.
It just takes love for kids, really.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you're open to that.
So talk about some of the trials and tribulations about raising kids of different ages and different gender and all that. I mean, what's the deal there? How do you guys manage that?
Well, one thing is every child has their own space. Like, for example, a 9-year-old that wants to be an astronaut, we just created a room for him with the space and glowing stars. And so he feels like, he's really in space. So we make sure that every child, we have the 6-year-old is interested in dinosaurs. So we nurture the dinosaur for him. And then we have the 20 months old and the 9 months. So we make sure that each child has their own space that they enjoy and love. And plus, we have also common spaces. Like we have a huge tent in the living room and everybody enjoys it, like little to old. Also in the playground, we have areas for the older kids, areas for the little ones, and passes to the parks. So they all love to go to SeaWorld, the Universal. So we make sure that we have something for all ages for everyone. Yeah.
You have a common theme. I think about both Paul and Elen, you would talk about allowing these young people to dream. I think kids who have had adverse childhood experiences are simply wondering what's tomorrow.
Yes.
Boy, that's powerful that you take them beyond that. That in and of itself is a healing agent, but it gives them hope and promise. It's powerful.
Yes, we've seen kids hide food under the pillow because they don't know when they're going to get the next meal. I've had the kids, going for a visit and asking me to give them food because they're not going to get fed. And so it's a law when you think about it.
Yeah.
Child hiding food, Really sad, yes.
Tell me about those first moments when a child is brought to your home. What is it like? What have you learned from it? What can you share?
In my opinion, is just pretty much let the child adjust, like don't pressure in any way. So we don't know what the trauma, because most of the time when they're removed, not even the department knows all the trauma they've experienced. So you have to kind of learn for yourself. I would say just let them, just trust you. Let them come to you. If you see a behavior tantrum, just think that it's not because they're trying to be bad, it's because whatever they've experienced, there is always a reason for that. And so that's the best thing that we do, just we let them come to us and make sure that we don't trigger them in any ways.
Yeah.
And be as welcoming as possible. I mean, like Elena said earlier, we give all the kids their own space. So if a child comes into our house, we're showing them what is their space, and this is where your clothes are going to be. This is your bed. This is, whatever it is that makes them comfortable. Here's your blanket, and Elena has always pushed new pair of pajamas. You come to our house, you're going to have a new pair of pajamas. It's going to be brand new, and it's going to make you feel comfortable when you go to sleep, so that you are comfortable in that situation. When they come to our house, they've been through a lot, and they may be crying, they may be, asleep, they may, they wake up and look at you and be scared, and so it's just trying to show them as much comfort as possible so that they can then start to begin to build trust.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing. You know, what you've just described is what we call trauma responsive, right? That's a field of study in psychology today that is running rampant because it's true to an essence of understanding what trauma impact is, and that's one thing is to simply be informed about trauma, but to understand how you set the stage for transition the moment a child arrives, understanding those can be trigger moments. I mean, this is amazing that you're sharing this, and neither of you, if I remember correctly, are a professor of any institution of child development and research and studies, right? I mean, no, this is just who you are and who our audience can now see. Yeah, maybe I can do that. I have the heart, the will, and the drive, and children are worth that investment.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we always try to push is the fact that these kids, when they're in our house, they're our kids. They're no different than the kids that have lived there for a year or 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is. They are our kids, and we are there to support them, help them, with whatever is necessary, and make sure that they are comfortable and happy in that situation. So being very welcoming and loving is very important, and treating them the same way as we treat everybody else.
Yeah.
And we've had kids that have been with us 2 days, and they call us mommy and daddy, and that shows to you how much they need that
Yeah.
connection, how much they miss it. We're very open to that, of course.
And there are some, I would imagine, that aren't as quick to respond in that manner and that maybe are resistant or hesitant or are not assured. How do you bring that child to that place when they're kind of pushing back?
Well, a lot of times we get help from professionals. They require a lot of therapy. We've had most of our kids have been in some sort of therapy. And so we follow what the therapist tells us, depending on the trauma, how we're going to handle it. But again, it's all a matter of let the child feel comfortable. Let them come to us and let them feel that they can trust us. It's a safe space. They're not going to get hurt. We're not going to judge them. We're not going to hurt them, and we accept them the way they are. And also, we're not replacing the families. We're here to help them go back home. They need to understand that we're not just taking them away. We're here to help them, mom and daddy, so they can get back together.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying. Yeah.
When the little girl that we were talking about that came to us first when she was about 2, and then when her older sister came, that was one of the discussions we actually had with her, because she was a little bit older, so she kind of understood mommy, daddy, that sort of thing. Sometimes when they're real young, they don't understand that. But this girl was about 5, I think, when she
Yes,
came
she was
to
5,
us,
yes.
and so she kind of was what do I call you? And our answer to that is you can call us whatever you like. You want to call me Paul, call me Paul. I have no problem with that. You want to call me Daddy, I would be happy with that as well. Whatever makes you comfortable. And at first, she didn't want to say Daddy at first, and hey, that's fine. And when she was ready, she did. In the next couple weeks or a month later or whatever it was, she started calling me Daddy. So
Uh,
that's just completely up to that child.
Yes, and also we ask the kids every night, what is something good that happened today? What is something bad? We want to make sure that they tell us everything. And I remember that little girl telling us the good thing is that I'm with my sister now because we took her,
Yeah. Yeah.
to live with us. So that was beautiful that we were able to have them together.
That is something that I've heard from folks who were considering taking in siblings that gives them a little trepidation about dealing with multiples. What can you say about your journey about taking in sibling groups?
We were the same. I remember when we took the little girl, we were like, okay, she has a sister, but they didn't ask us to take the sister, only the younger one. But then when we went to visit, we saw the older one and she started crying. When we left, it broke our heart. And I'm like, no, we need to get these girls together. And honestly, it was no different. It was better
Mm.
because she knew a sister better than we knew her.
Mm.
So really getting a siblings many times helps you because
Yeah.
they know what they've been through and they can comfort each other.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing.
Right.
If you have the space, that's a great thing to do.
Certainly makes them feel safer when
Yes.
they've
Yeah.
when they're now in a very foreign place in a new home that they don't know, but that they've got something to hold them
Yeah.
Yes.
and make them feel comfortable is their sibling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is so true that, children who have had adverse childhood experience, once removed, we talk about that's trauma that they've had coming to us, and then the introduction to unfamiliarity of people, places, and situations becomes it contributes to more complex trauma.
Yes.
And you guys are navigating through that. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yes, and we saw her come out of the show, the little one, because the sister would dance, with the older kids, and she would follow her sister, come out of a show, herself. So that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I think
yes.
about when I'm sharing with you guys, the things that I am interpreting as revelation to um, what maybe you didn't realize that you had in you and what impact you have on children and youth who are coming into the system. Tell us a little bit about what you imagined at the prospect of going to foster care and what was reality, and was it very different?
I think one of the things that was very different for me is that there's a lot of myths about foster parents, a lot of myths about foster care and foster children and stuff, and a lot of those things just really aren't true. Like, all foster kids are terrible. They're not. They're just, having a difficult time in their current situation, and they need some other place to get them safe, to get them, on the right track. And so that was something that I don't know that I expected all these children to be so bad, but when they have come to us, it's certainly not as bad as people seem to think. One little girl actually came to us from another family, and what we were told was that she was impossible to deal with. She was just this terrible, difficult child, and this family was done, and they needed to transition her somewhere else. And we're like, yeah, bring her on. We'll take her, no problem. And what we realized, really mainly Elena realized, was this child was frustrated. She wasn't the best at communicating, and she didn't understand how to communicate what she wanted or what she needed, and so she was frustrated, and so she would act out.
Mm-hmm.
And the other family that she was with just didn't make that connection, but Elena was able to very easily make that connection. And so then it was so much, we never saw the tantrums. We never saw the difficulties that the other family had, because I guess we met her needs right off the start. Elena started to understand how to communicate with her better. And then she started to talk and, become better at communicating herself. And so that's certainly one of the stigmas that I think I've heard that just isn't the case. It's just a matter of making sure you understand the child and meet their needs and show them love and those sorts of things that make them feel comfortable, and then most of the tantrums and things go away.
Yeah.
And actually, she turned out to be really sweet.
Yeah.
We started to do sign language with her. And we watched a lot of videos so we could teach her to communicate through sign language. And then when she was older, she was able to talk. Yes.
It probably helped her relinquish a
Helped
lot
a
of her
lot, yeah.
frustrations and
Yes.
things. Oh, that's
That was it.
wonderful.
Yeah, that was most of her frustration, the fact that she couldn't communicate.
Yeah. I think about our audience who's listening, and I think about people thinking, I don't know if we can do that. And I'm thinking, here's Paul and Elena, who have had a few years journeying through this. I mean, and now you guys could probably write a book and or teach a class. I mean, look, you really have such great and deep insights. And you should be proud. You look proud. You look like, not every day is a walk through the park, but
Right.
at the end of the day, you're making major baby steps with these young people to a promising tomorrow.
Well, we made a decision when we became foster parents that no matter how hard it becomes, we're going to see the kids through the end, the permanent home. And so we never would send the child away, no matter what happens. And we tell the kids that I had to tell kids, like, no matter what you do, I'm not going to send you away. I'm still going to love you. Things are going to get better. So that's the decision that we made, because we've had the kids that have been in 5 different homes in a year. And that's not good for the children.
Sure.
Adds more trauma to the trauma. So it's going to be really bad. Yeah.
You both are a part of the solution, aren't you?
We try.
We have
We try to
problems,
be.
but you are part of the solution. And I'm really grateful.
We're not perfect, but of course,
But we try.
We try, yes.
Well, we're going to take a few minutes for a break, and we're going to come back and dig deeper into the journey of 2 marvelous foster parents. Imagine the impact 100 loving homes could make. 100 hearts, 100 foster homes, 100 opportunities for love. With your yes, a child finds safety. With your heart, a child finds home. Strengthen our community. We urgently need 100 families to say yes, giving hope to a foster child. Scan the QR code to get started. So, we talked a lot about your understanding of trauma, your response to children of trauma. What do you think is something that really resonates with you in understanding trauma and foster children from the eyes of foster parents?
One of the things that I think I've learned about trauma is that it's something that can actually affect a child from birth. Mm-hmm. And, in my limited opinion of trauma, when I first started this whole situation, I never understood that it's something that could happen before the baby was born. When the mother's pregnant, the baby can have some effects from whatever trauma is going on in the mother's life. And so, one of the things that we went through a training and learned more about trauma, and it actually helped us understand our kids a little bit more, because, a number of the children that we've had from straight from the hospital from birth.
Yeah.
And then to see that they were struggling with some things and not understanding quite why. And then we went to a class on trauma that talked about how trauma can happen in utero, and, whatever happens to the mother happens to the child, and that could be the source of some of the trauma that these children have. And that's not something that I ever understood. So that was an interesting fact about it that kind of helped us understand our kids a little bit better.
Very good. How about you?
I agree with Paul 100%. I also had the misconception that when a child came to us from the hospital, they're like, oh, thank God they didn't go through any trauma, they're fine. But it's not true. Even slamming a door could affect that child, because you don't know if the mother, was slamming doors all the time. We've seen that. Babies like waking up at nighttime and not crying, just looking up because they were so afraid to cry because of the consequence of the parents, what they would do to them. And we found out with one child that she had many broken bones, because every time she woke up and cried, they would break a bone. So she was so traumatized, she didn't cry anymore. So we had to set up an alarm and make sure that we fed her, and she would be always awake, just looking. And she was 3 months old. That's a tiny baby.
It's so hard to believe that,
It's very hard to believe,
little
yes.
ones with such innocence coming into the
Yes.
world to experience that.
Such a trauma.
Yeah,
Yes.
but learned so quickly what
Yes.
to do and what not to do
Yes.
to,
Yeah.
Yes.
deal with whatever situation they were in, which that's just crazy.
And also to see that change in her, like, to her to feel now comfortable after a few months to be able to cry and not experience abuse. So that was beautiful also to see the change in her.
Yeah. Something that has been a part of conversations along my journey with foster families, and that is when and how did you understand about not internalizing some of the things that they say or do that are targeting you, the safe place, right? They're letting out this anger emotionally and sometimes verbally. Uh, when did you realize that this wasn't to be internalized? You know what I mean? That you don't take it like it's a
Right.
personal attack on me. It's a product of where they're at.
Yes, I had a little boy, in the mall, he threw a shoe at me and he said, "You're a stupid mom." And I didn't take it personally because I knew something is triggering this behavior. And also, he would, if he did something wrong, before I could even talk to him, he would just run. And then I learned that for a punishment, they would make him run.
Mm.
So he was punishing himself by running, like, kind of
Yeah.
think ahead what was going to happen. So I learned that, you cannot take this stuff personal.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes hard.
Yeah.
Sure.
We try not certainly to take it personally and try to understand that it's coming from a place of trauma, not necessarily
Yes.
because of what we're doing, but some days it's very hard. And so we lean on each other to remind ourselves that
Yes.
what we're going through is a journey, and this child just needs more patience or more discussion of that situation to try
Yeah.
and make sure that they change that.
And
that
also, when we're overwhelmed, we look at each other, okay, I need a 5 minutes break. So we take breaks
Yeah.
just to walk away, do something else, and then
Yeah.
come back and deal with whatever's going on.
Build your own natural supports, right?
Yes.
And you two have each other. It's beautiful.
Yes.
So I'll give you a word to think about, and you tell me what resonates with you. The hope for the future. I'm going to leave that open ended. Hope for the future. You tell me what that means to you.
Hope for the future, to me, my hope for the future is that these children that we have helped are successful. They live good, happy lives. They become good members of our society, have good jobs, that sort of thing. We try to always encourage our kids that school's important, and you know continuing on in our house, college is expected, not of course pushed, but that's kind of the line we always say.
Sure.
When
Right,
we
right.
finally get there, if there's a different way of going, that's fine, but we'll always say you need to go to college and that sort of thing. So we try to show them that there are big dreams. And so I think my hope for the future for the kids that we take care of is that they have big dreams and they go chase them.
Wonderful.
Yes, for me as well, I think that the hope for the future would be to break the cycle of the abuse and they will grow up to be different than what the parents were. So they could be more productive adults and happier also. And also to have the community work together to do things, as part of like a big family. Like, they say it takes a village, but working together, I think that would be my hope, like for the future for
Mhm.
everyone.
What is the sum total impact of fostering in your relationship?
I certainly think it brought us closer together when we first decided to become foster parents. We had only been together a few years and we had just gotten married, and we started talking about the idea of fostering, and it became this situation that brought us both joy and brought us closer together because we had this thing that we had to do together, because like Elena said earlier, we can't do this on our own. We do it together, and so it became where we leaned on each other more and became closer because of the fostering that we were doing.
Yeah.
And we could imagine. I cannot imagine my life without my two boys that I adopted. I couldn't.
Yeah.
We're so happy and
And we
grateful.
never intended to adopt.
Yes.
We got into fostering
Yeah.
to help as many kids as we could. And when the first child we decided to adopt, we actually were on the fence. And it wasn't that we didn't want him to stay. It wasn't that we wanted to move on. It was we got into this to foster, and if we adopt this child, then our ability to foster other kids starts to diminish because we don't have room to add additional children. And we started actually the process of him, the department starting to look for another family. And when it came right down to it, we couldn't do it. We had to keep him. He was our little boy. And so we ended up working it out to where he stayed, and we were able to adopt him. But and we've done that twice. And it's not that we love the other children any less. It's just those two really had a special place in our lives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, boy, you've taken me through an emotional journey with you today, and I'm quite grateful for it, actually. Let's leave our audience with things to think about with regards to, hey, we all agree that your journey took a lot of effort, a lot of commitment. It had highs and lows and stuff like that. What are the resources in the foster care system that were important to you to help make this journey successful?
there are a lot of resources out there to help. Obviously everything starts with the caseworker. We've got a caseworker for each child, and we meet with them on a monthly basis and get updates from them on what's going on with the case and moving towards whatever the permanent goal is for that child. So we rely on the caseworkers a lot, and some are better than others, but we always work very closely with them to do what's best for the child. The GAL program is another program that's been very helpful to us, and we've had some wonderful GALs. There's one woman that we have right now who comes and visits with us every month, and she stays for almost an hour every time, hanging out and helping us with the
Babysit.
kids, babysits the little one while we're getting dinner ready. And she's a very nice person, and she's been great to work with for that through that program. But then in addition, there's foster care association that
Hmm.
we're involved with. That's the group of foster parents that get together on a regular basis, and you know there's lots of training available through that. But then also there's just camaraderie with people who are going through the same
Yeah.
situations. And a lot of those meetings turn into, where can I find this doctor because I'm having trouble finding a specific therapist, or how do I deal with the school that's going through whatever situation this child's going through at school. How can I navigate that process? And so there's a lot of discussion between foster parents about how to solve whatever problem they're having at the time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They also have respite. They can help you with respite. They have
Yeah.
on Facebook. They have some sites that you
Mm.
can go on, and also they give you items, secondhand items, if you need help with the clothing or crepes and stuff. So there's a lot of help resources.
And I mean, you two are so proactive, which is wonderful. If there are families that are maybe timid or shy about reaching out to resources, what's your journey been like to give them advice about how to engage these resources? How to work with case managers and guardian ad litems and therapists and the schools and stuff like that. Any advice about how to make that happen? How do you be a part of that solution as a foster parent?
Well, we told them at the foster parents not to get a lot discouraged, because a lot of foster parents, why do they stop fostering? Because they get frustrated, discouraged, and they just give up. And so we encourage them, don't give up. And we've known of people that have said that to us. Okay, I don't want to foster anymore. But then, there is help out there. Just being, don't give up. Just insist on getting the help. Is the children deserve that, like the JO program. If they don't return your call, maybe go higher, and get them to return your call and meet with you, invite them to your house.
Yeah.
The thing that we always remember is we're an advocate for these children, and they don't have a lot of advocates. So we're here to be their advocate, and sometimes it's uncomfortable to call the caseworker 3 times a day until you get what you need. But if that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. Case managers, try to do their best, but they're overloaded as well. And so sometimes they don't get back as quickly as we feel they should. So we keep pushing in order to advocate for that child and get whatever they need. Um, the other thing is through the Foster Parent Association, we were introduced to a number of people who are foster parent advocates, and they're former foster parents. They may still be foster parents, but they're involved in the association, and their role is to be there and help when you can't figure out what to do next. And so we've leaned on those advocates numerous times to help us navigate a situation, whatever it may be, because they've heard from lots of other families how they've gone through whatever situation. So whatever situation you're in, somebody's probably already been through it.
Yeah.
And if you reach out to those folks, they can try and help you navigate.
Excellent. Great advice. Let me bring this home with one question for each of you, and that is, in just a few words, describe what fostering means to you.
What fostering means to me is it's a service to children in need, in my opinion. These children are in whatever bad situation is going on that may, certainly is beyond their control, and they need some help to get through that situation. And whether that situation is just their parents are having difficulty right now, and we can help them to where their parents are able to get on solid footing so that they can take them back, that's a wonderful thing. If they need to, be moved into an adoptive care, if that's what needs to happen because of whatever's going on, then we want to be there for them to get them through that journey. So to me, it's really just about being there and helping them through whatever situation they need so they can get to their permanent situation in whatever family they can get to.
Excellent. How about you?
For me, it's a mission to help children and their families too. Because, we're here to help these children eventually be reunified with the parents. Sometimes it doesn't happen, so we're here also to help them go to the permanent home.
Yeah.
So this is the way I feel, that's my mission.
Well, you are obviously a couple who are on a mission and a successful one at that. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.